Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Co-op Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Billy Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Gary A. Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
It's going very good, thanks. And I just wanted to start out by wishing you a happy birthday, because I know it was your birthday yesterday. So I just want to make sure I fit that in, because I didn't get to say it on air anywhere yet. So I wanted to say it right here at the top of the show. So I hope you had a good day, and happy birthday to you.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. I want to give a shout out to I know Mr. Jake James Lugo, Tony, Tatiana, and then our very good friend David Jagner also wished me a happy birthday. So yeah, I appreciate the birthday wishes. I did not do anything special because been pretty busy the last couple of days. I did play Resident Evil 2, so that was a fun time. And of course, I watched the NXT pay per view, which Dana, Adam, and Ricky, we all did a reaction for that. We all did our prediction show for that the other night. So that was the extent of all I've done so far this weekend. And I will be watching the Royal Rumble tonight. So if you're a wrestling fan, definitely check out the show that we did. And we are going to do a follow up show to talk about what happened with that whole event as well. So stay tuned for all of that. But yeah, man, just took it easy, played some games, and just ready to see what happens this year in terms of all the other opportunities, so on and so forth.
Also, man, I wish you much prosperity in this new year of life. So I hope
Thank you, sir.
I hope it all goes
Thank,
well.
thank you, sir. I very much appreciate that. Um, and with that said, I mean today's show we're going to talk about a few of the news stories that happened over the last week. It feels as though the year is really still just getting started. Of course, there are two major games that are out right now: Resident Evil, and of course, Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming out this Tuesday. So uh, there will be a lot of more news to talk about, I'm sure, as the year goes on. But there isn't really too much to talk about this week. But still, some things worth discussing. But before we get into any of that, we're going to let you all know what we have been playing. So, Gary, I'm actually going to go to you first, and you can let everybody know what you've been playing.
Yeah, so obviously I've been playing Overwatch. I actually played a lot of that today. I managed to find like a good six stack, which is a full team of six people to play competitive with, and like we were just like I went on the longest winning streak ever, like in that game, with the six people I was playing with today. So shout outs to all those people I was playing with. But yeah, still playing Overwatch. Um, but also this week, the only other thing I got to play was the Anthem beta or demo. It's officially a demo, but it should have been called beta, in my opinion. Um, so yeah, as a lot of people know, I'm sure, there's been a ton of problems connecting to the demo. The server capacity has just been, I guess it was very low. And they were just having server issues across the board on PC, console, and Xbox and PlayStation. So yeah, I mean, I only got to play some of it today, and I actually got to play a mission, but halfway through the mission, the game just crashed. So I didn't get to play a whole lot of Anthem, unfortunately, like many people, which is a shame because a lot of people pre-ordered just to get into this demo. But at least next week is the open beta, so hopefully they get that right. But we'll see. I mean, they should be able to prepare now that they know the kind of capacity that they have to deal with. But we'll have to wait and see. But as for what I think of the game, I do think that it was a good idea to have some of the game being first person. So like when you're in the hub world or whatever, you actually you're in first person. You get to interact and talk to people, and it feels very much like a BioWare game. Like there's story elements to it. You have dialogue choices for certain conversations. I'm not sure how deep that's gonna go though, because it is an online game, so I'm not sure how deep they can really get with the dialogue options. But yeah, like I think obviously like there was some performance issues because it's not the finished product. When I first got in the game, some of the physics in the hub area were really off. Like the banners were flapping really weirdly and stuff like that. But graphically, it looks impressive. The hub area does look impressive. It's just a case of working out some tweaks and stuff so that it looks solid in the finished product. So as for the missions, so once you get into your javelin, that's when you actually get to select your mission that you want to go on. There's a free roam option, or you can go straight into one of the missions or expeditions that you have to do. So this was where I had the most difficulty with the demo because whenever I tried to do this on Friday and Saturday, it would just send me into a long loading screen, and that loading screen would never complete. But when I tried it this morning, it actually worked for the first time, and I was able to actually drop into the mission, and it connected me with two other random players. Now, the flight mechanics take some time to get used to. I'm not sure how they feel on a controller because I was using keyboard and mouse, but it definitely felt like there was a learning curve to perfecting the flight. Like you have to jump and then like boost, and then while you're boosting and flying through the air, you have to kind of aim yourself and stuff. And it's very easy to fly into stuff, like fly into the environment and hit like rocks and cliffs and stuff like that. Um, and it feels like your character has a lot of weight to them, which I like. I think that's like a nice touch because wearing that suit, you would have a lot of weight to you, and you definitely get that feeling as you're flying and stuff, and you're trying to control your javelin. But once you do get used to the flight, it feels kind of sweet to just like fly around, jump down, and then start shooting enemies and stuff like that. At some point when I was shooting, it felt very much like Mass Effect Andromeda to me, like the physics and the gameplay. And I don't think that's a bad thing because one thing I will say about Andromeda is the combat mechanics were actually decent, I think. Like that was one of the good points of Andromeda. Like I feel like the combat was actually good. Granted, there were some enemies that were overpowered at parts, but the actual mechanics of shooting and stuff and using your abilities, I thought that was really well done in Andromeda. So if this is basically just an enhanced version of that, then I think that's a good thing. As for the structure of the game, it definitely, that they're not going to be able to shake the Destiny comparisons because this really is like Destiny with Mass Effect Andromeda controls, like gameplay and stuff. That's really what it feels like. But saying that, I think that that can be a winning formula. Like they can get it right. Like sure, it might just be like Destiny, but I think it can be a fun game. Like because what I did play, I was actually having fun for for at least like 10 minutes until the game crashed. Um, so so yeah, I mean, overall, I really just want to play more of this game. It seemed like there's a lot of customization as well in terms of your javelin. Like I looked into the I forgot what they call it now, but I think it's called the Forge or something. But you can go in and you can look at all the stuff you can update on your javelin and stuff like colors and add-ons and accessories and things like that. So that seems like it's going to be very deep, um, and there's going to be a lot of options to customize your javelin and make it unique to how you like it. I know I think there's three different classes, but I think in this demo you can only be one class. So hopefully, we'll get the chance to try out some of the other classes in the game. I know that, you're only supposed to be able to get to level 15 in the demo, but obviously I didn't get that far. Um, but yeah, so far I feel like this game really has potential. I actually bought the game already. Uh,
Uh-oh.
so yeah, like
Well,
I already own it. So
well, hold on. I absolutely didn't know that. So that's interesting.
yeah, yeah. So I thought, hey, might as well, like, cause it's piqued my interest enough now, and after playing it, I'm like, okay, this might be something. Like we might be onto something here.
Hmm.
Now the question is, can this game pull me away from Overwatch? That's the real question. But I guess we'll see in the next few weeks. But there's also the Division 2, which I'm highly anticipating. And
Uh-oh.
I'm very worried because these two games are coming out so close to each other. And it's like, how am I going to have the time to play both of these things? Like, it's
Oh,
crazy.
oh, don't worry. You'll have time because the division is out in March. Anthem is out in February, so you at least have a month to finish Anthem, and then you can play the division too.
But that's the thing though. Like, I don't think I can be finished with Anthem in a month because it's like this is like an ongoing online experience. Like, I'm not looking at it like a story mode like that you just beat and then that's it. I'm looking at it as a long-term experience like Overwatch. So, and the Division 2 is going to be essentially the same kind of game where it
Yeah,
has long-term value. So,
they
there's
they
definitely going to be some overlap.
yeah they've already said that the campaign for the division two is around 40 hours, and then whatever other stuff they add to the game after that, depending on when they add to it. I'm not sure exactly when they're going to add other content. But they do have an aggressive schedule in place for when they're going to add more stuff. So yeah, the division is a game. A lot of people are going to be playing that game for a while. Anthem, we'll see, because I wasn't able to get into the demo. I'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, we'll see what happens with both of these games sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, to summarize, I think Anthem has a lot of potential, and what I did manage to play, I liked so far. So I'm looking forward to playing more, to be honest, just to see how this thing turns out. Now, obviously, it's EA, so it could. There's a chance this could launch and become a disaster. So hey, who knows? But from what I played so far, I feel like yeah, it definitely has potential. So we'll see how that turns out.
Okay, that sounds good. Yes.
Oh, and a message for EA. Next time you plan to do something like this, please make sure that your servers are capable of handling the load. Now, I can understand if maybe the first 2 hours there are issues, but after that 2 hour period, it should be super smooth for everyone, especially when you like you basically tricked people into buying the game just so they can get access to this demo. Like people pre-ordered, people bought the game outright, like just so they can get in, and then they wasn't even able to play it. Like people were planning their weekends around this game, so it's a little messed up. But there you go.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with that. What I will say first and foremost in regards to Anthem, I did download the beta on Xbox One. I did get into the VIP demo that they had this weekend. Unfortunately, though, even though I was able to sign in, I wasn't able to actually at any point play the game because the server would not allow me to get in. And I saw that they did release a statement saying that there were a couple of issues preventing people from actually getting into the actual Anthem beta. Demo beta, whatever the hell you want to call it. Yeah, it was difficult for me to get in there, so I didn't get a chance to play it. I do know that they are going to have another beta open to everybody this upcoming Friday, which is, I believe, February 1st. And I think it's going to be for the whole weekend. So I'll be very curious to see how they react at that point because, as you already said, there are people that pre ordered this game and they specifically wanted to play it this weekend. So they got early access is fine, but they still had issues with people actually, being able to access the account. The last time I had checked on Saturday, I believe it was late Friday night, early Saturday morning, people on PS4 and PC were able to get in, but Xbox One was still having issues. So that's why I haven't been able to play it. But hopefully they do have these issues resolved, because it's going to be a hell of a lot more people playing this when it's open to everybody next weekend. So hopefully they're ready for that. Because if not, you're definitely going to have some issues. And I think we can all agree that because this is an online only experience, when it does launch in February next week, I'm going to say next month, I'm about 100% certain it's going to have issues on day one, and I'll be surprised if if that doesn't continue over the next couple of days after launch, because again they have to get used to the people that are going to be on the server, all the activity, all that other stuff. And even though they said, because they it said in that statement that they had tested all this stuff out, but some stuff you just can't test until it's the actual real world environment. This is why whenever you have multiplayer games like the Division and all this other stuff, this is why the people who review the games wait until they actually have a chance to play it in a setting with others in the actual real world setting to see how the online is and how it functions, because you can't tell that from just a limited amount of people on the server. So I'll be very curious to see how the game is, next weekend when more people are going to be on that server. Whether or not it still has issues, I don't know. And hopefully by then, by the next co-op, I'll be able to say something about it, because I will try and play it again today, but I have no idea if I will be able to actually do that. Um, so we'll
Yeah,
see.
and real quick, shouts to Melanin Gamers. Melanin Gamers is a streamer, and she was actually planning on streaming the game like this weekend. And because there was so many issues with the server, she didn't even get to. And I know there were a ton of people like that because I saw people going crazy on Twitter. So EA, I hope you got the message. I hope you understand, and I hope you're prepared for next weekend because it's gonna get crazier. So
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, yeah, I know some people were blaming BioWare, saying that it was on them as well, that they weren't prepared. But again, you can't really prepare for this type of stuff until it is actual a real world situation where you actually have people signing up on the server, and they will well past the capacity of what they expected, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean they had to know when they decided to make this game, and the fact that it's an online experience, you have to know and think about all of these factors. So hopefully, it's better if something like this happens now as opposed to when the game launches and then this type of stuff happens. But I still do think some of this is going to happen when it launches also, only because of the type of game that it is. But again, hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully we won't have any issues when it actually comes out next month. We'll see. Um, but yes, looking forward to trying out Anthem at some point. Um, the other game that I did get a chance to play, and I've actually been spending a lot of time playing this ever since Friday when I picked it up. That is Resident Evil 2 Remake. I want to take a moment to give a shout out to Mr. Jake James Lugo. He actually reviewed the game for us on the website. And again, we'll have another link in the description of this video so you guys can check out the review if you haven't seen it already. I know he gave it a 90 out of 100. Um, I'm not that far into the game because I'm actually playing as Leon, but I'm playing on the hardcore difficulty setting. So as a result of that, that really pushes you to the limit in terms of playing the game. Now, they do have a regular setting that you can play if you're a Resident Evil, if you are, I guess, new to the series, or you don't really want a challenge, you can play that. But I will say this: anyone who has played the Resident Evil games and you decide to pick up this game, I will highly recommend that you play it on hardcore, because when you play it on that setting, it really ups the ante in more ways than one. For instance, of course, you have the ink ribbons where you can save, but you don't really get too many of those ink ribbons, so you have to think about it. In terms of a true survival horror experience, you have to really think about when is the best time to save, because you can encounter something where if you get killed by zombies or the lickers or any of these other creatures, and then when you restart, it's going to come back to the last part that you saved. So I have encountered that a couple of times. In addition to that, bullets and stuff like that, it is a little bit more scarce. So you have to think about how you use your ammunition as well. And if you can think of other things you can use, such as a flashbang, a grenade, so on and so forth, to help you as far as blinding enemies, then yeah, you have to really think about all of this stuff. Um, but what I can say is, in terms of this being a remake that Capcom has worked on, I know they have been very vocal. There have been a couple of interviews in the past that came when they came out and said that at one point this game was in development trouble. They didn't really know if they were going to be able to pull it off. I have to say they have done a phenomenal job with this game based on what I have played so far. Um, it's first and foremost, graphically, it looks absolutely fantastic. I don't care if you're playing it on PC, PlayStation 4, or Xbox One. The game looks fantastic, and I'll be hard pressed to find anybody that would disagree with that. Um, of course, it has the over the shoulder camera angle that we saw in Resident Evil 4. That was the main change they made to this game. But they made a couple other changes here or there, but they made that change to really add something new to the experience. Um, and so far, I mean, I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, yes, I will say that there are parts where you'll definitely be scared, but I will say this: if you have a weapon handy, you always feel as though you have a fighting chance. But I mean, if you don't have any weapons, if you're scarce on ammo, then yeah, you definitely better run. Don't even try. Don't even try to do anything other than that. But it is a great game, a fantastic game. In terms of if I was to put this on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of remakes, um, I haven't played too many remakes, but I would say just based on my knowledge right now, this game is it has to be up there on the list just because of how well done it is. Um, but again, I still have a ways to go because I mean I've only really completed about I want to say the first 3 hours of the game, still playing through it, and then of course I'm playing on a harder difficulty setting, so that means it's going to be a little bit more longer before I actually finish it. But I highly recommend if you're a Resident Evil 2, well, if you're a Resident Evil fan, but if you especially love Resident Evil 2, you definitely should pick this up like as soon as possible because I mean it is a fun game. I know it currently has I believe like a 91 on Metacritic because it's gotten great reviews across the board from so many different publications. So all that stuff is warranted and true and it's accurate. So definitely check it out if you're a fan, if you're intrigued, and I promise you absolutely won't be disappointed. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't had too much experience with Resident Evil games. I mean, I remember playing around with the first game back in the PlayStation days, the PS1. But I was so young that I never really took it seriously. And then as the years rolled by, I just never, like got into the series at all. I remember, I think it might have been either Resident Evil 5 or 6. I really thought about jumping in and giving it a go, but I just I just never got around to it. But this one looks really good from everything I'm seeing, and in terms of it being a remake, it looks really impressive. So I don't know, like maybe I'll give in and give it a try, but I don't know.
Well, I will say this: as someone you said you just purchased Anthem, um, it's going to be hard to. I mean, a lot of these games, the $60 price point, I think, is something that I mean, certainly it's justified. The devs deserve the money that the teams. Everybody deserves the money, especially for all the hard work put into these games. But it definitely becomes hard to make these decisions. And then, of course, we have a huge month coming up next month for releases, February, because Anthem is coming out. And then you have all of these games coming out: Metro Exodus, Jump Force, Far Cry, New Dawn. I mean, the list goes on, and a lot of those games are coming out on the exact same day. So it's hard to. I can understand why anybody would say it. It's hard to really come to a decision as to what to play, and because there's so many different things out there. But yeah, it all depends on what you have time to play and what you can afford to pick up. But I will say this game, it definitely is worth picking up. I mean, you do have Leon's campaign, which I need to finish. I'm not. I don't think I'm nowhere near the halfway point of that yet. I might be close to the halfway point, but then you also have Claire, and then you also have Ada Wong. So you'll get some replay value out of this, um, no doubt about it. Because even when you're playing as Claire, it's going to be a different perspective of the stuff that she goes through. It's going to be a little bit different from what Leon goes through. So there is a lot more to the game than just playing it through one time. But again, it all depends if you have the time and if you are intrigued, and then of course if it's on sale. But I'm pretty sure this game will at some point be on sale because this is the beginning of the year. You know, it's not going to stay at $60 for forever. Um, but yeah, it's definitely worth checking out for those who are curious. They like survival horror games. They like Resident Evil in particular. This is a game where I have to say the critics are 100% accurate. Yeah, they did an excellent job with this remake. So, absolutely, positively, I recommend it and check it out when you get a chance.
If I got the time, then maybe, but it's likely I won't because there's so much stuff coming out. Kingdom Hearts, Anthem,
uh,
Division.
yeah. Kingdom Hearts is out on Tuesday. So yeah, it's crazy. There's a lot of games, but good times. Definitely stuff worth checking out. I can't say anything about Kingdom Hearts because I haven't played it. I don't know if Mr. Lugo has had a chance to play it. I know that a couple people out here was waiting on review copies, and some people didn't get the review copies. So I don't know what's going to happen with Kingdom Hearts 3, but I do look forward to seeing more people share their thoughts on it. There are a lot of publications that already got a copy and put some thoughts out there, but there's a couple other people I'm waiting to see what they have to say about the game. I haven't played any of the Kingdom Hearts games, so I don't really have too much of a high interest in the series. You know, it's a series where I feel like I need to play the other games before I get to the third game. But for those who are fans of the series and have been waiting so long for this game, I'm glad they can finally, get the game that they've been waiting for, and that for the most part, it's gotten great reviews. So looking forward to seeing what happens with that. But yeah, too many games to play and not enough time to play every game, so you have to choose wisely. Yeah.
Indeed.
So I believe that concludes what we have been playing for this week. Definitely we'll have more to talk about next week because there's a couple games that I do know that I will be getting soon. Some that I can't really talk too heavily about now, but I will definitely talk about that stuff soon after I've had enough time to evaluate them. So stay tuned for that. So with that said, we're going to move on to a couple of quick topics that happened this week as far as news is concerned. Let's start off with one of the stories that I believe as soon as I saw this story, I had to share it with Gary because I know he is a huge fan of CD Projekt Red and everything with The Witcher 3. So we found out recently that there was a report that came out that said that the CD Projekt creative director has just joined Blizzard. Now, I don't really know when I saw this news story, I didn't really see anything to specify exactly what he is working on at Blizzard, but I do think it's interesting that he joined Blizzard. So Gary, as an Overwatch fan and a fan of Blizzard in general, what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Now this is really interesting for me because these are like my two favorite studios right now, or among my two favorite studios. Um, so like, first of all, this is the guy. This is the creative director who worked on Cyberpunk
Mm-hmm.
2077. His name is Sebastian. I don't know how to pronounce the surname. I think it's Stepin or Stepin, something along those lines. I'm sorry for butchering it, but um, yeah. So he worked on Cyberpunk, which we know is coming soon. Now, what this tells me is that the game must be complete now. We've known for some time that there is a playable build from start to finish in the
Yeah.
CD Projekt offices. So I think this game is really ready to be shipped out sometime soon. We're just waiting for a release date at this point, but I think it's definitely coming this year. So I mean, when we're talking about the games industry, talent, talent gets move, it gets shifted around a lot in this industry. Like, people go from one studio to the other. We see it in PR, we see it in development, we see it in, with artists, sound engineers, writers, and it happens with creative directors too. So people move around a lot once projects are complete, and we don't even know the terms of what his contract was. Apparently, he's been there for a while, though. I think he worked on one of the Witcher games too. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he wanted new challenges, or maybe Blizzard was out seeking some talent. Because we know that, well, everything that's being said behind the scenes is showing that there's some sort of internal struggle with Activision Blizzard, and I know that a lot of people have been moved off of certain projects at Blizzard and put on different ones. So I think they're prioritizing certain projects at Blizzard at the moment. So it makes sense that they would go after someone like this, just to pull in some talent of a higher caliber. Now, as for what he's going to be working on, I can only assume it would be either Diablo or Overwatch. The
Mm.
reason I would say that is, I mean, we know there's a new Diablo coming, the mobile one. Whether I don't know if he would join to work on that though, especially with
No, well,
especially with the bad reception that happened. But they did say that there's another Diablo game in development too, so it could be that he joined to work on that. But I like it's not just a fan in me, but I think he's joining for Overwatch because um, Jeff Kaplan actually alluded to a big surprise. Well, if you read between the lines of what's going on with Overwatch, there's something big happening this year at BlizzCon. There's going to be a huge announcement regarding Overwatch because they're not even doing the Overwatch World Cup this year, it seems, at BlizzCon. So if they're not doing the Overwatch World Cup, it can only mean there's going to be a huge announcement regarding Overwatch at BlizzCon, which is going to
mm,
happen this fall. So it could be Overwatch 2, or it could just be like an expansion for Overwatch period, or it could be the announcement of like a story mode or something along those lines. Now this is a creative director, so I mean if he's moving to Blizzard, it means he's going to work on something creative in terms of storyline content and things like that. So um, I really think it's definitely something to do with Overwatch because I know that the current team that works on Overwatch, they're so busy trying to work on things like balancing and to coincide with the Overwatch League, which is coming back in a few weeks now. Um, like that takes up a lot of their time, and they don't have a lot of resources to allocate to making new content for the game, and that's something that like Overwatch has been super popular for a long time, but at the moment the fan base of Overwatch is starting to feel a bit irritated because there's like nothing new, and the time has increased between balance patches. So what that means is like you have the meta, and the meta is basically which heroes are good to use at the moment competitively. So sometimes there's certain heroes that dominate the competitive space to where you have to use those heroes on your team. And there's not much room for diversity in terms of using different heroes and tactics and things like that. So sometimes people get really iffy because they don't update the game enough so that more heroes become viable, and they're not dominated so easy. So they have to put a lot of time and effort into working on these things to make the current fan base happy, and that doesn't leave a lot of time for creating new content for the game. So it would make sense that any people that Blizzard hires is going to be working on Overwatch because the popularity it already peaked, and I think it's slowly starting to decline now because the people who are playing Overwatch now are people who've been playing it for a long, long time, and they're not really getting any new players. So I think that is probably for Overwatch, to be honest. But what do you think, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, I always have a joke that I've said on this show multiple times that I think Overwatch, great multiplayer experience, but I wish that there was some type of campaign or, I mean, I know the characters have their own little stories, and they've released stories like video stories, cinematic trailers before to really fill in the blank as to what certain characters did before Overwatch, so on and so forth. So that's fine, but I felt when I played the game, because I played it a long time ago, uh, I thought the game was fun, but I just felt like it needed a little bit more. And the reason why I felt that is because I played games like Evolve, where the multiplayer only game, that game didn't evolve, which is very ironic for the title of it. But it's just that when I played these multiplayer only games, and Titanfall 1 is another example, it didn't really feel like there was no campaign. So I had a very bad perception of these multiplayer games where it didn't feel like there was a story. That was what prevented me from really getting into Overwatch like everyone else who did get into it. But with that said, what this creative director, you know, so first and foremost, if he does come there to work on Overwatch, that's great. I don't really have any idea what he would bring to the table. Would have to be something related to a story, I would think, or some type of campaign, something to add more content to the game, because I know they can continue to add characters to the game and different events that they have. But I feel as though to make it a really of a new experience, you have to add some type of element to it that isn't already there, and have that element be something that stays and can evolve. So I think a story, if they wanted to release little bite-sized chunks of a campaign, that'd be pretty cool. But I mean, I don't really know other than that. If this guy was coming in to work on Overwatch, what else he would be there for? The other alternative is that he could be there to work on the other Diablo game. Now we do know that the other Diablo game is still in development, despite the backlash that Blizzard got at that event. We do know that the other Diablo game, the real Diablo game, people have been waiting for. They was going to talk about that game at BlizzCon, but they didn't do it because they felt as though it wasn't really ready to be revealed yet. So bringing in this guy, possibly, I think it is to help with that, because they know that that game is going to be massive once it does release. Even though people who complained about the mobile game, they're still going to go out in droves and buy this game. So I do think that this guy could be coming in to work on that. But I think at this point it could be either of those, or it could be something totally different. But I'm pretty sure that it's probably one of those, because they see the pedigree of what this guy has done. You know, as you mentioned, he's worked on Cyberpunk 2077, and I'm pretty sure he's done some work on The Witcher or some of the other games there. So I mean, to bring him in to work on this other stuff, I would think it would have to be an important project. Maybe not something new entirely, but yeah, Diablo, whatever the next Diablo game is, or Overwatch, yeah, that totally makes sense. But my guess is whatever he is working on, something that we probably won't really hear about until maybe a year or two from now. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I would imagine that whatever he's working on, though, it's going to take some time, because once he gets in there, he probably has to get acclimated to what it is that he is going to have to work on, and then figure out ways to bring what he does to to whatever team he's a part of. So my guess is that whatever he's working on, we're not going to know about this for a while, but I could be wrong. This could be something that could be revealed by the end of the year, but I think more than likely you'll hear about it in either 2020 or 2021. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's true. It is going to take time for him to get acquainted with, all the activity at Blizzard and for him to really make an impact. So we might not see the effect of this for a while,
Mm-hmm.
which makes me think he either is working on the Diablo game, or he's working on the next Overwatch or some sort of Overwatch content.
Well, hold
So,
on. Well, hold on. So there is going to be an Overwatch 2 then. That's what
well,
you're
I
saying.
mean, it's the rumor, because apparently something big for Overwatch is going to be announced at BlizzCon. So
Uh-oh.
That's the rumor that's going around, but it could be anything. It could be Overwatch 2, it could be an Overwatch expansion, it could be an Overwatch movie. Who knows?
Expansion or movie sounds very interesting. Yeah, we'll see. But one other thing I did want to mention, as far as Cyberpunk 2077, I do definitely believe that game is coming later this year. If it's not later this year, it has to be like in the first or second quarter of 2020 because again, going back to the E3 demo that they released, when we saw that demo, I believe it was me and Mr. Max Muller. We went to go to E3. We saw that particular demo, and then normally, as you know, when we've been to these demos in the past, they don't release the footage for a long time. In the case of Witcher 3, I think it was a whole year before they actually released that footage. But within months later, they released the footage at Gamescom. So I think the game has been in development for a long time. Definitely, possibly going to be out later this year. And if not for any reason, like I said, early 2020. But yeah, that game is definitely coming soon. Even if they have already completed, they completed the playthrough. Maybe they need some time to polish it up and do a few other things, which is fine. But yeah, either the end of this year or early 2020 would be my guess. But yeah, it's definitely coming sooner rather than later.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, I think this fall is gonna come out. I don't know when they're gonna make the official announcement, but I think it's definitely coming this year, and I can't wait to be honest. Like this is like my most anticipated game now.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, the one of the great things about this industry, and we always, I really sit back and take a notice of this stuff every year, is that sometimes when the year starts, you have no idea what's going to come out in the fall. Like we usually know what's coming out within the first quarter, the first maybe even the second quarter of the year, but we don't really know anything about the fall until right around E3 time. So, this is a game where it could definitely get announced at E3 or before E3. Yes, it's coming out September, October, November of this year, and then it's a huge surprise. But no doubt about it, I think this is the fun thing about what we do as far as covering games because there's always intrigue as to what's going to be the big holiday titles. Yeah, Call of Duty will be there obviously every year, but then there's other titles where you don't expect or you don't really know until it happens. And this is probably one of those games where it's definitely going to come out and they want to probably make a big deal of the announcement. So I would assume by E3 we'll know where this game stands. But yeah, looking forward to it whenever it does come out. No doubt about that.
Likewise.
Hmm. So with that said, let's move on to the next topic. Um, this is something that I only want to speak about briefly because I know you don't really have too much of an interest in this, but I know on Friday there was some news that Nintendo broke, and they pretty much announced that they were going to restart development of Metroid Prime 4. I believe that Retro Studios is now working on the game. These are the guys that worked on the first three Metroid Prime games. So yeah, it's a great studio team behind it. They already know what they're doing, so that's great. But yeah, the whole thing about this announcement is that it came out of nowhere because Nintendo had, I believe it was, I don't want to say it wasn't. I'm not sure if it was E3 2016 or 2017. One of those E3s we went to was when they announced Metroid Prime was in development. Um, During the actual E3 Nintendo Direct. So ever since that announcement, no one heard nothing about this game. No information whatsoever. So for them to come out and now say, "Oh well, we're going to restart the development. We didn't like how things were going this time around." You know, I'm curious to get your opinion on them. Taking this approach because I do have a couple of
Hmm.
thoughts, but I just want to get your opinion whether or not because some people think it was excellent of Nintendo to do this. They feel like a lot of other studios should do this. Announce when you feel a game needs to be restarted. but they're not really, but there's another issue to that I'm gonna get into. But what is your initial thoughts of hearing about this whole thing regarding Metroid?
Um, I mean, I really don't see a problem with it because I think it's actually the responsible thing to do to be transparent with your audience and let them know
Hmm.
what's going on. Um, and we know Nintendo to be a studio that's all about quality. Like they want to make sure that the game is perfect when it comes out and there's no glitches, there's nothing wrong with it, and it's the best game that it can possibly be. That is their philosophy. So, them doing this just shows that they feel like it wasn't going well or something and they need to restart it. And at least this, um, you know, it makes it so people don't have false expectations. Because if they didn't say anything, people might be like, oh, what's going on with Metroid? Is it cancelled? Is it ever coming out? But now at least people know, okay, they're starting again with development, so that means it may be like another 2 years. So now people, their expectations have changed and they're like, okay, we might not see this for another couple years, but at least they're still doing something, you know. Now, on the other hand, you have Square Enix, and Square Enix don't tell you anything, and you have to wait like 5 years to get the game you want from them. So that's the other way they could go about it, but at least they're being transparent and letting you know what the deal is. And in with Square Enix, I mean, when it comes to Square Enix and things like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, we really have to rely on rumors. Like people leak news about these games for us to
Hmm.
really know what's going on with them. And then whenever stuff leaks, then they're forced to make statements or something. Like that's how things are operated at Square Enix and regarding Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts. So I would rather have Nintendo's approach where they're just like, look, we changed the developer, or we're restarting development on this game. So then people know not to expect it anytime soon. Whereas Square Enix, you're just waiting for years and years and years, and you hear nothing about it. So I would much rather have Nintendo's approach. And actually, the same thing happened with the Final Fantasy VII remake because they actually did bring, because at first they had third party developers working on it,
Yep.
but then they switched that up and they brought it in house. But they didn't say anything about that until it was kind of leaked by I believe it was leaked by some Japanese publication.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean the same thing happened with Square, and they weren't transparent. And here we are, like 4 years later, still waiting for some news about the game. So
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say because I do recall that situation because we spoke about that before on the show when that announcement or when that news came out, and there's a lot of disappointment. I mean, obviously the game is still in development. I mean, I don't think we're going to see that Final Fantasy game until next generation now because I just don't see. I mean, there's no way of knowing how long it's been in development in house. Because even though that thing leaked out, I don't know if that was something that was done a while back or that was just started as soon as the leak happened. So I don't. There's no way to know that information. But I do think it's safe to say that whatever happens with that game, it's not coming for a while. And as for this game in particular, this definitely is not coming. I mean, I will be surprised if this comes out by the time. I mean, if I had to make a guess, maybe another 3 or 4 years. So this by the time this come out, the PlayStation 5 and whatever the next Xbox is will probably already be out, or it'll be like a launch. It'll be right around the launch window of those particular consoles. I have no idea because I mean, PS5 could come as soon as next year or 2021. I have no idea when these systems are coming, but this game is not coming for a while. So we'll see what happens with that. And what Nintendo will probably do is if they decide to make another successor to the Switch, this will probably be a title that will get ported over, like pretty much all of the Wii U titles that got ported over to Switch that everybody is going out in droves buying now for some reason. So that's probably what's going to happen. One thing I do want to say though, while I do applaud Nintendo for being transparent about this news. The one message that I think needs to be clear to not just Nintendo but every single developer is it's probably not a good idea to announce something early if you really don't have anything going on with that at the moment, because this is a perfect example of something that it was announced for that Nintendo Direct, and then we didn't see or hear nothing about this game until what we heard on Friday. So I think for any developer, they should take note of this. Don't announce a game until you actually have something to show, and actually the development process has actually already started. You want to take an example of what happened with Microsoft and Scalebound. That was a game that was actually playable at Gamescom that people actually played. So then for Microsoft to turn around and cancel the game, that is, that to me was very annoying because, I mean, the game was already playable. People had already had a chance to play it. And whatever, maybe it was an issue with polish or whatever. I don't know what happened with Platinum Games and Microsoft, but that I think is a far worse situation because the game was already out there in the open compared to this. So that's why I do give Nintendo credit for at least making this announcement. But again, I would tell them and every other developer, don't announce a game until you actually are somewhere in the development cycle where you actually have something that you are working on and you can actually see something in motion. So we'll see what happens though, because this stuff always happens in this industry. So I'm pretty sure it's going to continue, business as usual. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see indeed.
Yes. So now we're going to take this opportunity to move over to the next news topic, which is pretty much the December 2018 NPDs. Now, I believe that this information was released earlier this past week. I haven't really had a chance to look at this list, so I'm actually looking at this list in real time live right now while we record the show. But I think one of the biggest things about this is, well, the headline says Smash Brothers beats Spider-Man in exclusives. Interesting. And the best-selling games. Okay, here we are. So let's start at number 10 and work our way up. So yeah, number 10 was Marvel Spider-Man. Number 9 we had Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. Number 8 we had Super Mario Party. Number 7 Madden NFL 19. Number 6 Mario Kart 8. Number 5 NBA 2K 19. Number 4 Battlefield 5. Number 3 Red Dead Redemption 2. Number 2 Call of Duty Black Ops 4. And number 1 Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. So a few quick things I want to say about this, and then I'll get your thoughts. Not surprised that Smash Brothers Ultimate is number 1 because that was the game that came out in December. That was the major release people were waiting for. So to me, that's not really a surprise. Um, Call of Duty and Red Dead Redemption 2, yeah, the Call of Duty game has been doing pretty well in terms of the response from some of the fans. Only multiplayer, not really a single player campaign. I'm not really sure what that means for the future of the Call of Duty games, but I do know that a lot of people picked up that game. So the fact that outsold Red Dead Redemption 2, I mean, not surprising. Again, though, there are no numbers to go along with these particular listings, so I don't know how close the sales are in comparison. It could have outsold it by a few copies, a few hundred copies. You never really know that because there's no information on here. But yeah, not really too much of a surprise. And as for some of the other titles on this list, NBA and Madden, not surprising. The playoffs were going on during this particular time. We're gearing up for the Super Bowl here next weekend, so I'm not surprised that Madden is still selling. Same thing with NBA. The season is really almost at the halfway point. It will be in February when they have the All-Star game, so not surprised about that. And as for Spider-Man, there was the DLC that came out in December, the third and final DLC that came out. So yeah, people probably were still picking up this game. So that's not really a surprise. But it being number 10, totally fine, totally fine. I don't have any issues with that. But what are your thoughts in regards regarding some of the software titles that did sell well during December?
Yeah, like you said, it's not a surprise that Smash Bros is number 1. That game was definitely the talk of the town throughout December. When it released, everyone was talking about it. Even I managed to go play it because my friends Ramiz and Cole made sure that I came over to play and everything. So yeah, that game was always going to be number one just because it's Smash Brothers. Like people love that game. What I will say is that Nintendo are looking very impressive because they have so many games in this top 10. Like, they got Pikachu, they got Super Mario Party, Mario Kart, and Super Smash Bros. That's a lot of games in the top 10. So, Nintendo are looking strong right now, and I think that's going to continue. Um, and this is probably the best they've looked since the Wii U era, like the early Wii U era, because when the Wii U first came out, they were dominating for a long time.
Yeah.
I think things kind of changed as that generation went on, but yeah, like Nintendo is looking very strong right now, and even with the delay of Metroid, I think they're gonna be able to stay in a strong position for a long time. And then when Metroid does come out, if it happens to be around the time that the next Xbox and the next PlayStation are coming out, like you said, that's gonna put them in a strong position too because they'll still be able to stand up against those new consoles because they're gonna have games that people want still. So I think Nintendo are doing a great job right now for sure. As for the other games in the top 10, um, I mean everything looks normal. The only thing I'll say is, wow, Call of Duty still selling that much. Like,
Oh
wow,
yeah.
I'm I'm surprised, man.
I will say this about Call of Duty because I did play I did play the game for a little while when it first came out. The multiplayer is a lot of fun. Um, Actually, there's I believe there's a few modes in the multiplayer. It reminded me a lot of the Division Two when I played the Division Two, a couple weeks ago. Um, so because instantly that was what I thought of as we were playing the game. The team based combats. I don't remember if it was domination, which mode it was, but it reminded me very much of Call of Duty. So yeah, I have to give Activision credit. I mean, I loved the stories in the Call of Duty games. Not every story, okay. Some of them I like more than others, but I like the campaigns in there in these games. So I don't want to see that stuff go away completely. But if it does go away, and this is what people want, well, you got to get the people to get. You have to give the people what they want. But I mean, it's still selling well. I'm not really surprised. It did come out in November. No, October actually. Yeah, it came out before Red Dead, so it is surprising that it is still up there. The question I wanted to ask you is, how do you feel about Red Dead being number three, though? Because I know you've completed Red Dead. I still haven't finished Red Dead. So, what do you think about that being number three?
What month did Red Dead come out again? It was October, right?
Yeah, that came out like the October 29th, I believe, or the 30th. It came out like at the very end of October. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think that's a reasonable spot for it. I mean, I would have thought it would have been number two instead of Call of Duty, but I mean, Call of Duty, I guess that's a brand name that's just is always gonna sell, no matter what. So, um, I guess I kind of understand it, but I think number three is a good spot for Red Dead, considering it had already been out for quite a while. It because throughout November it had the entire month to kind of breathe, and
Hmm.
people were still picking it up throughout November and everything. Um, so yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable spot for Red Dead Redemption. Um, what would you think? Do you think it should have been higher?
Oh no, I'm totally fine with it being number three. Um, I mean, I'm to a degree, I'm still surprised that Call of Duty still outsold it. But I mean, at that point, I believe that I believe they had just started the beta for Red Dead Online. So I don't really think. I mean, I'll be curious to see what the numbers are next month, where Red Dead is at next month, because it will still be in the top 10. I'm just curious where it's going to be at, because I know the beta had started for online. The beta is still going on now. I don't think they've converted that over to the full thing yet. So
Yeah, with regards to Red Dead Online and that whole thing, I wouldn't expect that to boost any numbers. To be honest, like it's not that special at all.
so it's not going to be like Grand Theft Auto 5, because Grand Theft Auto 5 is still on this list. It's like at number 17, 18.
Yeah,
Uh, but it's not going to be like Grand Theft Auto at all. Then
nah,
Grand Theft Online.
nah. Red Dead Online is not as powerful as GTA Online. Unfortunately, like they should have did something different. Like it just looked like GTA Online in a new skin, and I don't know why they're still calling it a beta. Like, I mean, what more are you gonna add to it to make it better than it is now? Like, and you have Anthem and you have Division 2 coming out, two big online games. People are gonna be playing those games and Call of Duty. They're not gonna go back to play Red Dead Online. Like, I just
Yeah.
don't see any kind of appeal to play that online.
Well, I hope that they have thought of a content strategy plan to really convince people to come back to the game. I know a lot of people complained about the way they set up the economy in Red Dead Online, because I know Tony and them were talking about this on the Throwdown, where some stuff is just ridiculously overpriced. So hopefully that stuff is better. Um, I mean, I haven't played on Red Dead Online, because I wanted to complete the actual campaign first. So I will go back and finish the campaign, but Red Dead Online, I guess we'll have to see how that pans out. But
Yeah, and like, I mean, the only way I guess they could kind of um make people somewhat excited for it again is because I remember with GTA Online, you had the first period when it came out, and it was pretty popular then because
mhm.
it was new and everything. But then when they started marketing the heist and building that up, people got like a whole new level of interest in GTA Online because of the heists and everything. So if they're able to implement that same level of excitement for a heist system in Red Dead Online, then maybe that can work. But visually, I just don't think it will be as impressive as GTA Online because GTA Online is like it's more relatable to us, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
oh, like I want to make all this money so I can buy all the most expensive cars that I want and everything like that, and I can make all the modifications to it. I can buy a house and all this stuff. But when you're thinking of Red Dead, it's like, oh, I want to make all this money so I can, change my horse's shoes. Like it just doesn't have the same feel. Like
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, I had no problem with that. Huh. Yeah, so I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to see about that. Uh, but yeah, that's crazy. Um, did you have any other thoughts you wanted to share on the games that are on this NPD list?
I mean, not really. I mean, Spider-Man at 10. That I guess that makes sense because that had been out for like 4 months at that point. So
Yeah,
yeah, um, yeah. I mean, everything looks. There's nothing that looks outstanding. Like nothing that stands out. So
yeah.
I think it's cool. Cool list.
So so I just want to make a quick prediction for the January list. And I could be 100% wrong, but I do feel as though the word of mouth may help. I would not be surprised if Resident Evil 2 was number one for January and Kingdom Hearts 3 is number two. Now, Kingdom Hearts 3 could easily be number one. I don't know how many people have been waiting for Kingdom Hearts 3. I know we have a lot of people here on the staff that have been waiting very patiently for this game. I don't know how big the fan base is for that game when it comes to this stuff, but if I had to make a guess, Resident Evil, these games are going to be neck and neck because Resident Evil came out on the 25th. This game is coming out on the 29th. So it's close enough where that's going to be very close in terms of the numbers of sales. So that my prediction would be Resident Evil 2 is going to be number one next month if I had to
Yeah,
make a guess.
I agree. I think Resident Evil 2 is going to be number one because that game is super popular right now. Like, even going on Twitch, it's like so many people I follow on there have been streaming that game, and I keep seeing people talking about it on Twitter, sharing clips and all sorts. So that game is going to be big. I think it's definitely going to be number one. And as for Kingdom Hearts, I think a lot of momentum for that game is falling flat because you have the reviews that came out and people are up in arms about the reviews. I just want to say one thing, like an 8 is not a bad score. Like I don't understand. I don't understand why people are complaining about the game getting an 8, like or an 88 out of 100 or whatever. Like that's not a bad score. That's that's above average. So why like I just don't understand. Like I don't
that
know.
that that
Maybe
that,
I'm too
that,
old.
that's what they're complaining about. It wasn't scored high enough.
Yeah, I've seen people complain that it wasn't scored high enough, and I think people were petitioning or threatening some kind of site or something. So,
Okay, so the question I have for these people is, have they played the game? Because if they haven't played the game, how do they even know how it is? I mean, they could be like, well, maybe it's an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, or had they just decided, well, I waited long enough for this, that means it's going to be a masterpiece regardless. I don't understand that. Um, that's crazy though. But 8.5, I believe IGN gave it an 8.5. A couple
mm,
sites gave it in the eights, and I believe Game Informer is the site that gave it like a 9.5. So I don't understand that there are some people that I don't think an 8 is a bad score though, but that's just my opinion.
yeah, I don't know. People put way too much stock into the numbers. Like it doesn't matter. Like it's just it that represents someone's opinion. Like you still have to form your own opinion about the game. So if you're waiting to play the game because you've been following this series for over a decade or whatever, then go and play it and make your own opinion. Like the reviews aren't the be all end all. So
Exactly. Well, I think that's something people everybody should remember. Review is an opinion. It's one person's opinion. It doesn't mean everybody is going to have the same opinion. I've seen quite a number of video game and movie reviews that I would disagree with. But again, that's why you have to actually see play the game and watch the movie to form your own opinion as to whether or not you actually like the experience. Don't worry about what the critics say. Yes, sometimes the critics are right, and other times they are very, very wrong. So you have to form your own opinion. But for those that have been waiting for this game, I don't understand why they should even care about any review. You have been waiting to play this game for 13 years. Just play the game. Don't worry about what everybody else has to say. Play the game, form your own opinion, and that's it. But I don't know. We'll see. Feels as though people will always find something to complain about. This is the type of culture we live in right now. So
yeah, that's true.
yes. So with that said, is there any other topics or discussions you wanted to bring up for today? I know there wasn't really that much news to talk about, but yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to cover or say?
Nothing else comes to mind. Um, I just want to let everyone know that the Red Dead Redemption 2 discussion that we recorded last week, it was available on Patreon first, but it is now available for everyone to go listen to. It's on the iTunes, it's on YouTube, and it's on the website. So just go to coalition.com and you can check that out. It's a spoiler discussion, so we'll be talking in depth about the storyline, what we liked, what we didn't like, and our thoughts on the epilogue. So go check that out. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Yeah, and I also would like to piggyback off of that. Say, yeah, we do have quite a bit of things that are in the works. I have a couple of reviews that I have been working on that you will start to see on the website. Also, February is a huge month for releases. So there's definitely going to be a ton of things that we're going to be doing. There's a couple other shows that I will be recording very soon that you guys will definitely be seeing in February. So stay tuned for that. But yes, there is plenty of content coming, so just stay tuned. And I will give a shout out to everybody that has been checking out the content. I know we've had Mr. Lugo has been posting up a ton of things, so I want to give a shout out to him as well. Um, but we and then of course we do have other things we have been doing, other podcasts we've been doing. So just stay tuned. We do have a lot, but for gaming in particular, stay tuned because we have a ton of things we're working on. Some stuff that we can't really talk about at the moment, but definitely you're going to want to stay tuned to the website in February and beyond because we have some pretty fun things coming. So with that said, definitely want to thank you all for checking out today's show. I want to give a shout out to everybody on the coalition staff for all of the hard work, all of the great things that they have been doing. And as I said, we do have a ton of things in the works, so stay tuned for that. I want to give a shout out to the WrestleCast crew, Adam, Dana, and Ricky. Definitely stay tuned for our recap of what happens at Royal Rumble. And if you haven't already watched the NXT and Royal Rumble prediction show, definitely check that stuff out as well. It was fun to do that. A nice little fun show. Um, Give a shout out to the Throwdown crew. I know they're doing Throwdown Your Questions tonight, so definitely make sure you check that out. Tony, Carlos, Manny, everybody over there, Brett, Brian, etc. Definitely check that out as well. Um, and yeah, just give a shout out to everybody that checked out the show today. I know I saw Miguel in that chat at one point, so I want to give a shout out to Miguel. Anybody that is either watching live or listening later, we appreciate your continued support. And Gary, the floor is now yours for shout outs.
Yep. So I want to shout out some of our Patreon people: M. Collins, Mauricio Aguilar, Himdil, Fergus Mills, Miguel, Antonio Rogers, and Sean Gority. We appreciate you all for your continued support. And if you guys want to support, you can contribute as little as $1 a month, and you can get access to all of our backlogs of our special shows. There's some stuff in there that we've never released, so you can go check that stuff out. And in the future, we're going to be making some more content that will appear on the Patreon first, or sometimes it will only appear on the Patreon. So definitely go check that out if you do want to support us. We appreciate it. And also big shouts to Melanin Gamers who was in the chat today. Go check out Melanin Gamers on Twitter and Twitch. Just Melanin Gamers, all one word. Um, Thanks for showing your support and being in the chat today. And a big shouts to the entire coalition team. Tatiana, Dana, Tony, JJ, Richard, everyone who supports Edward, who wasn't here today because he was working. But big shouts to him too, and shouts to Mr. Carl E. Banks and Ramiz Quadri, who are also in our group chats and everything. So big shouts to all you guys.
Absolutely. Yes, always a pleasure. So thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you all next week.